You are on HOA anger. She tried to charge me for asking questions. I pulled into my driveway after a 10-hour shift delivering mail in the drizzle, and before I could even kill the engine, Pamela Harris planted an orange cone behind my car and yelled that it was now officially blocked for safety and towing was justified. The rules do not care about your feelings, she said, her voice cutting through the rain like a siren. I sat there with my hands on the wheel, my left knee throbbing from the injury I got 3 weeks ago when I slipped on a porch step, and I watched her stand in the middle of my driveway with her arms crossed like she owned the asphalt. My bumper stuck out maybe 6 inches past the property line. Maybe. The sidewalk was not blocked. A toddler could have walked past without stepping into the street. But Pamela did not care about reality. She cared about control. I am a postal carrier in Richmond, Virginia, and I hear all the gossip on my route. I knew Pamela Harris before I ever bought my townhouse in the Millstone Parking Compliance Association neighborhood. People warned me. They said she runs the HOA like a warden, that she keeps a binder of violations in her car, that she drives around at night looking for cars parked the wrong way. I thought they were exaggerating. They were not. Pamela stepped closer, her visor dripping water onto the cone. You have 30 minutes to move this vehicle or I am authorizing a tow. I already called the vendor. I got out of the car, favoring my good leg, and pulled my small notepad from my pocket. The pages were damp and curling at the edges, but I flipped it open anyway. Show me the rule, I said. She smiled. It is a sidewalk obstruction. Section 12, subsection 4. Fire safety. I looked at the sidewalk. There was no obstruction. A mail truck could have driven past. Pamela pulled a folded paper from her cardigan pocket, but did not hand it over. This is the tow authorization. Signed by me as HOA president. Approved by the board last month. You were not here for the vote because you were on leave. Convenient. The tow truck was already here. I turned and saw it idling at the curb, a flatbed with a wheel lift arm folded up like a scorpion tail. The driver was on his phone, leaning against the cab, not even looking at my car yet. Pamela waved at him. He did not wave back. I took a breath and reminded myself that I had a guest pass that expired tonight at midnight. My brother was supposed to visit tomorrow, and I needed that pass active. If Pamela towed my car, she would claim I violated the guest parking policy too, even though my car was in my own driveway. That was how she worked. She stacked violations like Jenga blocks until you could not fight them all at once. I kept my voice level. My bumper is on my property. The tow vendor does not have authority to remove a car from private property without proof of a violation. Show me the rule text. Pamela tucked the paper back into her pocket. If you want mercy, move somewhere without an HOA. I wrote that down. Exact words. She noticed and laughed. Make it public. I love watching people get embarrassed. I kept writing. The drizzle turned the ink into little blue smears, but I could still read it. The property manager arrived 10 minutes later. Her name was Diane, and she had the kind of forced smile that said she knew exactly what was happening and wished she were anywhere else. Pamela turned to her like a prosecutor presenting evidence. Diane, this is the 3rd time this month he has blocked the sidewalk. We have photos. Diane looked at my car, then at the sidewalk, then at Pamela. I do not see a blockage, she said carefully. Pamela's smile tightened. The rule is clear. Any portion of a vehicle extending past the property line into the public right-of-way constitutes an obstruction. Diane pulled out her phone and took a photo. I will forward this to the board and get clarification, she said. Pamela stepped between Diane and my car. We do not need clarification. We need enforcement. I spoke up. My guest pass expires tonight. If you tow my car, I cannot get my brother here tomorrow. Pamela turned to me. Then you should have parked correctly. Diane looked uncomfortable. Pamela, the pass system is separate from parking enforcement. We can extend his pass if there is a conflict. Pamela shook her head. The board voted to remove automatic extensions. Guests park in designated spots only, and if the resident is in violation, no exceptions. I felt my jaw tighten. When did the board vote on that? Pamela did not blink. Last month. You were not there. Diane glanced at her phone. I do not have that meeting in my records. Pamela pulled the folded paper out again, this time holding it up but still not handing it over. It is all here, signed and filed. Diane reached for it. Pamela pulled it back. You can request a copy through the formal records process. Diane's forced smile cracked a little. Pamela, I am the property manager. I should already have a copy. Pamela shrugged. Then your files are incomplete. That is not my problem. I kept my plan quiet, because the HOA depends on controlling the narrative. I had been collecting screenshots for 3 weeks. Every group chat message, every sudden rule change Pamela announced without a vote, every time she told someone a different version of the same policy. I had timestamps. I had witnesses. I had proof that the meeting she kept referencing never happened, or if it did, the minutes were edited after the fact to add provisions that were never discussed. But I was not ready to show my hand yet. Pamela was waiting for me to blow up, to yell, to give her an excuse to escalate. So I stayed calm. The tow driver finally walked over. He was a big guy with a clipboard and a reflective vest. Pamela pointed at my car. This one. Full tow. Impound fees start tonight. The driver looked at the bumper, then at the sidewalk, then at me. You live here, he asked. I nodded. This is my driveway. He looked at Pamela. You are the HOA president. She smiled. I am. He tapped his clipboard. I need to see the authorization and proof of violation. Pamela handed him the folded paper. He read it, frowned, and handed it back. This does not have a violation code, just says obstruction. What is the actual measurement? Pamela's smile faded. The rule does not require a measurement. The driver shook his head. My contract with the city does. If I tow a car off private property without proof of a public safety hazard, I lose my license. Show me the measurement or I am not hooking it up. Pamela's voice went cold. I will call your supervisor. The driver shrugged. Go ahead. He walked back to his truck. Pamela pulled out her phone and started dialing. Diane looked at me. Do you have somewhere else to park tonight? I shook my head. I can barely walk. My knee is still healing. Moving the car is not the problem. The problem is she is inventing rules to justify a tow. Diane nodded slowly. I will email the board tonight and ask for the meeting minutes. Pamela hung up and turned to Diane. The board does not answer to you. You answer to us. Diane's forced smile disappeared completely. I work for the management company, Pamela. The board hired us to enforce the rules fairly. If you are changing rules without proper notice, that is a breach of contract. Pamela stepped closer. Then maybe we need a new management company. I felt the situation shift. Diane was not going to help me tonight. She was going to cover herself and let this play out. I was on my own. I pulled out my phone and opened the HOA group chat. I scrolled back 3 weeks to the night Pamela announced the new guest pass policy. No vote, no discussion. Just a message at 11 at night saying effective immediately, guest passes are non-transferable and expire at midnight with no extensions. I took a screenshot and sent it to Diane. Check the timestamps, I said. Pamela never called a meeting. She just made it up. Diane looked at her phone. Pamela looked at me. You are going to regret that. The group chat exploded. Within 5 minutes, 6 neighbors responded. 3 of them said they never got notice of a meeting. 2 said Pamela told them the guest pass policy was still under discussion. 1 said she voted against it and was told her vote did not count because she missed the previous meeting. I watched Pamela's face go pale, then red. She started typing on her phone, her thumbs flying. The group chat got louder. Someone posted a photo of the old rules. Someone else posted a copy of the bylaws. Someone else asked why Pamela was allowed to authorize tows without board approval. Pamela turned to the tow driver, who was back on his phone. I am authorizing this tow under emergency safety provisions. The driver did not look up. Lady, your emergency is not my problem. I need a measurement and a violation code, or I am leaving. Pamela pointed at my car. That vehicle is a hazard. The driver sighed and walked over. He pulled a tape measure from his vest and knelt by my bumper. He measured the distance from the property line to the curb, then wrote something on his clipboard. 4 inches past the line. Not blocking the sidewalk. No fire lane markage. No violation. He stood up and looked at Pamela. I am not towing this. Pamela's voice cracked. I will have your contract terminated. The driver shrugged. You are not the city. He got in his truck and drove off. Diane left without saying goodbye. Pamela stood in my driveway for another minute, staring at her phone. The group chat was still going. Someone asked if Pamela had a personal vendetta. Someone else said this was the 4th bogus tow attempt this year. Someone posted a link to the county ordinance on private property towing. Pamela finally looked at me. This is not over. Then she picked up her orange cone and walked back to her car. I watched her taillights disappear around the corner, and I went inside. My knee was screaming. I sat on the couch with an ice pack and opened my laptop. I pulled up the HOA portal and clicked on the meeting minutes archive. The most recent entry was from 2 months ago. Nothing from last month. I searched for the word guest. 0 results. I searched for towing. 1 result, from a meeting 8 months ago, where the board discussed hiring a new vendor and voted to require written authorization from 2 board members before any tow. I took a screenshot. Then I opened the bylaws. Section 12, subsection 4. It said any vehicle blocking pedestrian access or emergency vehicle access could be subject to removal, but only after written notice and a 48-hour cure period. I took another screenshot. I sent both screenshots to Diane with a short message. Pamela violated the tow authorization process and the cure period requirement. I am filing a formal complaint. Diane replied 5 minutes later. Received. I will forward to the board president. I almost laughed. Diane was going to forward my complaint to Pamela. That was how broken this system was. I opened a new email and addressed it to the entire board, CCing Diane and the management company owner. I attached the screenshots, the group chat log, and the tape measure photo the tow driver took. Subject line: unauthorized tow attempt and false violation claim. I kept the tone professional. I did not call Pamela a liar. I just let the evidence speak. I hit send and waited. The reply came at 6 in the morning. It was from Pamela. Your complaint has been reviewed and denied. The board finds no violation of procedure. You have 72 hours to move your vehicle to a compliant position or face escalating fines. Attached was a photo of my car taken from the street, with a red circle drawn around the bumper. The circle was labeled obstruction in all caps. I stared at it. The photo was from tonight. Pamela must have come back after I went inside. I zoomed in. The angle made it look like my car was halfway into the street. It was not. It was a perspective trick. But the photo was going into the official record. If you are enjoying this HOA nightmare, Hit that like button and subscribe for more stories where the rules are made up and your sanity does not matter. I called my brother. He was supposed to drive down tomorrow for the weekend, the first time I would see him since my injury. I told him what was happening. He said he could cancel. I told him not to. I needed him here. Not just for company, but because I needed a witness. Someone outside the HOA, someone Pamela could not intimidate. He said he would leave early and get here by noon. I spent the rest of the morning on the phone. First, I called the management company owner. He was polite but distant. He said Diane had briefed him, and he agreed the situation was unusual, but the board had final authority on enforcement. I asked him about the meeting minutes. He said he would look into it. I asked him about the tow authorization process. He said the bylaws allowed the president to act unilaterally in emergencies. I read him the bylaw. He paused. I will get back to you. He did not call back. Next, I called a lawyer. I could not afford a retainer, but I paid for a 1-hour consult. She listened to the whole story, asked for copies of the screenshots, and told me I had a strong case for harassment and procedural violations. She said I could file a complaint with the county, or I could demand a hearing with the full board and force them to produce the meeting minutes. She said if the minutes did not exist, or if they were altered, that was fraud. She also said HOA disputes take months, and in the meantime, Pamela could keep escalating. I asked her what she would do. She said document everything, stay calm, and do not give them an excuse to claim I was the aggressor. Then she said something that stuck with me. They want you to quit. Do not quit. I went outside to check my car. The orange cone was back. Pamela must have returned while I was on the phone. This time it was directly behind my rear tire, wedged against the pavement like a wheel chock. I moved it to the curb and took a photo. Then I saw the sticker. It was on my driver's side window. A bright yellow rectangle with bold black print. The text said this vehicle is in violation of community standards and is subject to immediate removal. No readable text on the sticker itself, but the shape and color were unmistakable. I peeled it off slowly. It left a sticky residue. I took another photo, then scraped the residue off with my fingernail. The group chat was still going. Someone posted a poll asking if Pamela should be recalled. 23 people voted yes in the first hour. Pamela responded with a long message. She said the poll was invalid because it was not conducted through official channels. She said anyone spreading misinformation about board actions would be subject to fines for defamation. She said she had consulted with the HOA attorney and confirmed that all recent enforcement actions were lawful. Then she said the board would be holding an emergency meeting tomorrow night to address the recent wave of harassment directed at HOA leadership. I read that 3 times. Harassment directed at leadership. She was flipping the script. I was the problem now. Not her fake meeting, not her fake tow authorization, not her fake violation sticker. Me. I screenshot the message and added it to my growing file. My brother arrived at noon. He parked in the guest spot, which required a guest pass. I logged into the HOA portal to print one. The system said my account was locked due to outstanding violations. I called Diane. She said the lock was automatic when a violation reached 72 hours without resolution. I told her it had been less than 24 hours. She said the system clock was set to HOA time, which was adjusted for processing delays. I asked her what that meant. She said she would look into it. I told my brother to park on the street. He said the street had 2-hour parking limits. I told him to move the car every 2 hours. He laughed. You are serious. I nodded. We went inside and I showed him everything. The screenshots. The emails. The sticker residue on my window. He read the group chat messages and whistled. This woman is unhinged. I told him about the emergency meeting tomorrow night. He asked if I was going. I said I had to. He said he would come with me. I told him Pamela would try to kick him out. He grinned. Let her try. That afternoon, a certified letter arrived. It was from the HOA attorney. The letter said I was in violation of sections 12.4, 15.2, and 18.7. It listed fines totaling $450, due within 10 days. It said failure to pay would result in a lien on my property. I read it twice. Section 15.2 was about noise complaints. I had not made any noise. Section 18.7 was about exterior modifications. I had not modified anything. The letter did not explain what I was being fined for. It just listed the sections and the amounts. I called the lawyer again. She said the letter was a pressure tactic. She said I should respond in writing, dispute the fines, and demand an itemized explanation. She said I should also demand a hearing. She said if the HOA refused, I could file a complaint with the county and possibly sue for harassment. She also said it would cost me at least $3,000 in legal fees to fight this in court. I did not have $3,000. I thanked her and hung up. My brother made coffee. We sat at the table and planned. He said I needed to go into tomorrow's meeting with a clear goal. Not just to defend myself, but to force Pamela to produce proof. He said I should ask for the meeting minutes, the tow authorization, and the violation codes. He said if she could not produce them, I should move to have the fines dismissed. He also said I should record the meeting. I told him the bylaws prohibited recordings without board approval. He said I should ask for approval at the start. He said if they denied it, that would look bad. I agreed. That night I could not sleep. My knee was throbbing, and every time I closed my eyes I saw Pamela's face. I got up and checked my car. The cone was back. This time it was on my hood. I took a photo and moved it back to the curb. Then I saw the tow truck. It was parked 3 houses down, engine off, no lights. I walked closer. The driver was asleep in the cab. I took a photo of the truck, the license plate, and the company name on the door. Then I went back inside and added it to my file. The emergency meeting was in the clubhouse at 7. I arrived at 6:45 with my brother. The parking lot was full. I recognized most of the cars. The neighbors who had been active in the group chat were here. Pamela's car was in the front row, parked diagonally across 2 spaces. I took a photo. My brother laughed. She really does not care, does she? I shook my head. Inside, the clubhouse was set up like a courtroom. Pamela sat at a table in the front with 2 other board members. Diane sat off to the side with a laptop. About 30 residents filled the chairs. I sat in the back with my brother. Pamela started the meeting without waiting for everyone to settle. She read a prepared statement. She said the board had received multiple complaints about harassment, misinformation, and intimidation directed at HOA leadership. She said the board took these complaints seriously and would be implementing new policies to protect volunteers from abuse. She said any resident found guilty of harassment would face fines, suspension of privileges, and possible legal action. Someone in the front row raised their hand. Pamela ignored them. She continued reading. She said the board had reviewed the recent group chat activity and determined that several residents had violated the community conduct policy. She said those residents would receive formal warnings. She said repeat offenses would result in escalating fines. Then, she said the board had also reviewed my complaint and found it to be without merit. She said I had failed to follow proper procedure, and my public accusations constituted defamation. She said I owed the HOA $450 in fines, plus an additional $200 for filing a frivolous complaint. I stood up. My knee buckled a little, but I stayed on my feet. I request to speak. Pamela looked at me. This is not an open forum. You can submit written comments after the meeting. I held up my phone. I also request permission to record this meeting for accuracy. Pamela's face hardened. Denied. Recordings are prohibited. I stayed standing. The bylaws say recordings are prohibited without board approval. I am asking for approval. Pamela glanced at the other board members. They looked uncomfortable. One of them, a man named Eric, cleared his throat. Why do you need to record? I looked at him. Because the last meeting I was told about never happened. I want proof this one did. The room went silent. Pamela's face turned red. That is a lie. I held up my phone again. Then show me the minutes from last month. Pamela stood up. You are out of order. Sit down or leave. I did not sit. I pulled out my small notepad, the pages still damp and wrinkled. I have screenshots of the group chat showing you announced a policy change without a vote. I have a copy of the bylaws showing you violated the tow authorization process. I have a photo from the tow driver showing no violation. And I have a certified letter from your attorney listing fines for violations that do not exist. So either produce the meeting minutes or admit you made it up. Pamela walked toward me. Her voice was shaking. You are harassing this board. You are disrupting this meeting. You are in violation of the conduct policy. I stayed calm. Show me the meeting minutes. Pamela stopped 3 feet away. Get out. My brother stood up beside me. He is allowed to be here. He is a resident. Pamela pointed at him. You are not. Leave now or I will call the police. My brother crossed his arms. Call them. I would love to explain this to a cop. Eric spoke up again. Pamela, maybe we should just show him the minutes. Pamela turned to him. We do not negotiate with residents who file bad faith complaints. Eric looked at his own laptop. I do not have the minutes either. Pamela, did you upload them? Pamela's jaw tightened. They are in the system. Eric shook his head. I just checked. They are not. Pamela turned back to me. This meeting is over. Everyone leave. No one moved. Someone in the front row said we want to see the minutes too. Someone else said Pamela has been changing rules without votes for months. Someone else stood up and said I got fined for a guest pass violation and I never even had a guest. Pamela grabbed her phone and started dialing. The room erupted. People were shouting questions. Someone demanded a recall vote. Someone else said they were calling a lawyer. Diane stood up and tried to restore order, but no one was listening. Pamela finished dialing and held the phone to her ear. Yes, I need police at the Millstone Clubhouse. We have a resident refusing to leave and disrupting a meeting. She gave the address and hung up. Then she looked at me. You just made this so much worse for yourself. The police arrived 10 minutes later. 2 officers walked in, looked around, and asked what was going on. Pamela stepped forward. This resident is trespassing and harassing the board. I request that he be removed. One of the officers looked at me. Do you live here? I nodded. I own a unit. The officer looked back at Pamela. Then he is not trespassing. Pamela's voice rose. He is disrupting an official meeting. The officer looked around the room. Everyone else seems pretty disrupted too. What is this about? I stepped forward and handed him a clean packet. Copies of the screenshots, the bylaws, the group chat log, the tow driver photo, and the certified letter. I explained the situation in 3 sentences. The HOA president authorized a tow without proper procedure, fined me for violations that do not exist, and refuses to produce the meeting minutes she claims justify her actions. I am asking for an incident number, so I have a record of this dispute." The officer read through the packet. The other officer looked at Pamela. "Do you have the meeting minutes?" Pamela crossed her arms. "That is internal HOA business." The officer nodded. "So no." Pamela's face turned red again. "I do not have to answer to you." The officer closed his notepad. "Ma'am, if he lives here and he is not breaking any laws, I cannot remove him. If you want to continue this meeting, that is up to you. But I am not going to arrest someone for asking questions." He handed me a card with an incident number written on the back. "Good luck," he said quietly. Then both officers left. Pamela tried to restart the meeting, but no one was listening anymore. Eric stood up. "I move that we table this meeting and conduct an audit of the meeting minutes for the last 6 months. The other board member, a woman named Linda, seconded. Pamela slammed her hand on the table. "You do not have the authority to call an audit." Eric looked at her. "The bylaws say any board member can request an audit with a second. Linda already seconded. We are doing this." Pamela gathered her papers and walked out. The room erupted in applause. The meeting dissolved into chaos. People formed clusters, talking in angry bursts. My brother and I stayed until the room cleared. Eric came over and shook my hand. "I am sorry this happened. I did not know she was bypassing votes." I told him I appreciated it. He said the audit would take a week, maybe 2. I asked him if Pamela could still enforce fines during the audit. He hesitated. "Technically, yes. But if the audit finds she violated procedure, the fines will be reversed." I nodded. That was better than nothing. We left the clubhouse and walked to my car. The orange cone was on my hood again. I picked it up and threw it into the bushes. My brother laughed. "You are getting bold." I shrugged. "I am tired." He clapped me on the shoulder. "You did good in there." Pamela looked like she was going to explode. I got in the car and checked my phone. 3 new emails. The first was from Diane. "The board has requested a formal audit of meeting minutes and enforcement actions. All fines are suspended pending review." The second was from Pamela. "You will regret embarrassing me in public." The third was from an address I did not recognize. The subject line said "former board member." I opened it. The email was from a man named Robert. He said he served on the board 2 years ago and resigned after Pamela took over as president. He said she had a pattern of inventing rules, selectively enforcing them, and editing meeting minutes after the fact to cover her tracks. He said he tried to report it to the management company, but they did not want to get involved. He said he still had copies of the original minutes from his term, and if I needed them, he would send them. He also said Pamela targeted people she thought were weak or distracted, because they were less likely to fight back. He said I should keep documenting everything, because eventually she would make a mistake big enough that the board could not ignore. I replied and asked for the minutes. He sent them within an hour. I opened the file and compared it to the current minutes on the HOA portal. The current version had entire paragraphs added that did not exist in Robert's copies. Votes that never happened. Policies that were never discussed. I forwarded the file to Eric and Diane with a short note. "This is what fraud looks like." Then I sent a copy to the lawyer. The next morning, I got a call from the tow vendor. The driver who tried to tow my car wanted to talk. I met him at a coffee shop near the neighborhood. He was off the clock, wearing jeans and a hoodie. He said Pamela had been calling his company for months, trying to get cars towed without proper authorization. He said the company had a contract with the city that required proof of violation before any tow. He said Pamela kept pushing, kept threatening to get their contract pulled, kept submitting fake authorization forms. He said his supervisor finally told her to stop calling or they would report her for filing false reports. He said she called again last night and demanded they tow my car immediately. His supervisor hung up on her. I asked him if he would testify to that. He said he would, but only if the company backed him up. I asked him if they would. He said maybe, if it meant protecting their license. I thanked him and added his statement to my file. Then I called the city inspector. I explained the situation and asked if the HOA had authority to enforce parking rules on private property. The inspector said no. HOA rules only apply to common areas and must be consistent with city ordinances. If Pamela was authorizing tows from private driveways, that was illegal. He said he would send someone to investigate. The city inspector arrived 2 days later. I met him in my driveway. He measured the bumper overhang, checked the sidewalk clearance, and reviewed the photos Pamela had submitted. He said there was no violation. He said if Pamela continued to claim otherwise, she could be fined for filing false reports. He gave me a copy of his report and a signed statement confirming what the HOA cannot enforce. I added it to my file. The audit took 9 days. When the results came out, they were devastating. The auditor found that 12 meetings over the last 18 months had minutes that did not match the original recordings, policies that were never voted on, fines that were never authorized, tow authorizations signed by Pamela alone, without board approval. The auditor recommended that all fines issued during that period be reversed, that all unauthorized policies be rescinded, and that the board consider removing Pamela from her position. The board called another meeting. This time, Pamela was not in charge. Eric ran it. He read the audit report out loud. The room was silent. When he finished, someone moved to recall Pamela. Someone else seconded. The vote was unanimous. Pamela stood up, her face pale, and said, "If you want mercy, move somewhere without an HOA." No one laughed. She left without another word. But Pamela was not done. 2 days later, I got another email from the HOA attorney. It said Pamela had filed a personal defamation lawsuit against me for damages related to my public statements at the meeting. The email included a copy of the complaint. It claimed I had knowingly spread false information, damaged her reputation, and caused her emotional distress. It demanded $20,000 in damages. I forwarded it to my lawyer. She called me back an hour later. This is a SLAP suit. Strategic lawsuit against public participation. It is designed to intimidate you into shutting up. We can fight it, but it will cost you. I asked her how much. She said at least $5,000. I did not have $5,000. I posted about the lawsuit in the group chat. The response was immediate. 3 neighbors offered to help pay for a lawyer. Someone else said their spouse was a paralegal and could help with paperwork. Robert, the former board member, sent me another email. He said he had been sued by Pamela 2 years ago for the same thing. He said she dropped the lawsuit a week before trial because she knew she would lose. He said it was an intimidation tactic. He said I should countersue for legal fees. I asked my lawyer about that. She said it was possible, but risky. I told her to do it anyway. The lawsuit dragged on for 3 weeks. My lawyer filed a motion to dismiss, arguing that my statements were protected speech and supported by evidence. Pamela's lawyer filed a response, claiming I had acted with malice. The judge scheduled a hearing. I showed up with my entire file, screenshots, emails, meeting minutes, the audit report, the city inspector report, the tow driver statement, and Robert's testimony. Pamela showed up with her lawyer and a single binder. The hearing lasted an hour. The judge dismissed the lawsuit and ordered Pamela to pay my legal fees. Pamela tried to interrupt. The judge told her to sit down. Then the judge said if Pamela filed another frivolous lawsuit, she would be sanctioned. I walked out of the courthouse and checked my phone. The HOA had sent an email. It was a correction, retracting Pamela's false claims about the violations in the meeting. It apologized for the confusion and confirmed that all fines had been reversed. It also said Pamela was no longer serving as president and had been placed on a no-contact directive by management. Any further communication from her would be considered harassment. The group chat exploded again. This time, it was celebration. Someone posted a photo of the orange cone with a red X over it. Someone else posted a GIF of a car driving away. Someone said they were organizing a neighborhood barbecue to celebrate the recall. I smiled and put my phone away. The tow vendor called me a week later. The supervisor wanted to apologize. He said the city had warned them about improper tows after reviewing Pamela's complaints. He said they were issuing refunds to everyone who had been towed under her authorization. He said they were also dropping the HOA as a client to protect their license. He asked if I wanted my tow fee refunded. I told him I was never actually towed. He laughed. Good. Stay that way. I sat on my porch that night, my knee finally feeling better, and looked at my car. The bumper was still 4 inches past the property line. No one cared. The orange cone was gone. The group chat was quiet. Pamela's name had not been mentioned in days. I opened my small notepad and flipped through the damp, wrinkled pages. Every quote, every threat, every lie. I thought about burning it, but I kept it, just in case. My brother called to check in. He asked how I was doing. I told him I was fine. He asked if it was really over. I said I thought so. He laughed. You know she is going to try something else. I shrugged. Let her. I have the receipts. He said he was proud of me. I told him I could not have done it without him. He said, that is what family is for. We talked for another hour about nothing important, and for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The neighborhood slowly returned to normal. The group chat became boring again, full of lost cat posts and yard sale announcements. Diane sent a follow-up email saying the management company had implemented new policies to prevent unauthorized enforcement actions. Eric was elected as the new president. He ran on a platform of transparency and fairness. He won by a landslide. Pamela moved out 2 months later. No one knew where she went. No one asked. I still see the orange cone sometimes in my mind. I see Pamela's face, red and furious, her voice cutting through the rain. I see the tow truck idling at the curb. I see the sticker on my window. I see the emails, the fines, the lawsuit. But I also see the moment the judge dismissed her case. I see the moment the board voted to recall her. I see the moment the tow vendor apologized. I see the moment I walked out of the courthouse with my legal fees covered and my reputation intact. That is the moment I keep coming back to. The moment I won. It was not about the parking space. It was not about the bumper. It was about refusing to let someone bully me into submission. It was about standing up when it would have been easier to move my car and shut up. It was about proving that the rules do not care about your feelings, but they also do not care about Pamela's. They care about what is written, what is voted on, what is real. And when you have the receipts, the rules work for you. Stay safe, and I will catch you in the next one.